I am now on the way to a job interviews at yet another place I will only refer to as Evil Pizza. I read up on their dress code, and I am not supposed to have this, or this, and I'm not supposed to wear hoodies. So I kind of doubt how well I will fit in, but it also depends on how strict they are. I don't love a job that makes me wear a polo, but that's the sacrifices we make for making money. Recently I was door dashing and I got my first flat tire. I had to replace the entire wheel because I bent a rim. And there were heat marks on the inside of the tire, so I couldn't just replace the rim either. It ended up being a $170 fix that my dad had to take care of because I have $140 including what's in savings. He said he hoped by my 21st birthday that I would be able to take more of the financial responsibility myself, but he at least understands that the job market is fucked and that I am somehow even more fucked than the job market. Now that my use of YouTube isn't completely casual, it feels like when I don't post for a while, it's like no call, no showing to work. If I don't have any videos or drawings or songs to show off. I've been sitting so long on this short film because of my tech troubles, but I've still wanted to make something. And I haven't had anything to make. I haven't had a lot of resources and I haven't known what to do. I don't know. So I wanted to just talk. I think that my art focuses a lot on mundanity. Because it's such a powerful feeling for me. So much of my artistic career really became the beginnings of what it is now during the pandemic, when all I could do was sit inside this room. I remember post-pandemic, but still when I was in that period of sitting in my room all the time, watching We're All Going to the World's Fair, going into a trance of sorts after I watched it, and making one of the only songs from a pseudo Lost Cherry Pit album called Wear the Gown. You know, that's in the old canon before I rebooted Cherry Pit. Called Stare Into the Middle Distance with Me. And it's one of the only songs from that album I still like. And it's a noise track with, you know, unlicensed samples from Tracy Chapman and Radiohead. And there's a hypnosis video about losing your voice. Because that's just kind of how the world feels. As fucking insane as that might be to say. It's just how it feels. Especially when you're chronically ill and trans and all the other identity politics shit that could be relevant. I think there's a certain amount of political value in just showcasing the mundane lives that we live. You know, I think a lot about someone who commented on a video I made with my best friend Lizzie, where we were making veggie burgers together, and he was like, I don't get it. 2 dudes in wigs cooking? This is like, he's making me feel so old. I'm like high and scared and don't get it. And it was really funny. It's some of the funniest transphobia I've ever experienced. But also, like, that means that cis people who don't get trans people are seeing my videos. Even my, like, stupid YouTube videos where I'm not even trying to do anything. I'm driving again. I feel like Dale Cooper when I say that. Hello, Diane. I am driving again. That's the wrong character. I just went to the dentist, get my fucked up teeth and my bloody gums looked at. Now I am driving to my D&D group. Originally, every day is exactly the same was going to be called a day in the life. Maybe this is more accurate. I don't cover myself in fake blood every day, believe it or not. Although my hair looks like it now. This hair that might not get me a job. The interview lasted me 5 minutes. They didn't even ask me if I had a car that was reliable transportation or if I had ever had any trouble with traffic. They just went, what position are you applying for? What hours, what days can you and can't you work? Okay, we'll give you a call if you get the job. And the guy was sitting in one of the dough containers the entire time, like one of the trays. It felt somewhat Lynchian, honestly. Like, this is the state of the job market now, that I'm going to the world's smallest evil pizza to be interviewed by a guy sitting in the same place they prepare the food. At least at my last evil pizza job, they took me back to where the manager's desk was. This time I stood at the counter like a customer. It was thoroughly odd. Snow again. I still haven't heard back from my job interview. I've only DoorDashed once because I was going to last night, but my body is too fucked. I went to get food from the kitchen and I sat down for a moment because I felt exhausted and I just needed a second to think about what food to scrounge up to eat. And I couldn't get up. I was stuck on the floor for 5 minutes until I managed to pull myself up by the stove and hobble out to my car because I'd left my cane in it. And I spent the most of yesterday laying in bed because of it. And I've fought a lot with myself over whether I want to describe myself as disabled or not, and whether fibromyalgia is a valid thing to describe as a disability, but I had to quit my last job and the job before that, both, because they were too detrimental to both my mental and physical health, and they were exacerbating my fibromyalgia and making it so my legs hurt too badly to walk or to stand for too long at a time. So, I just turned 21 today. This was the final benchmark before I was a full adult in the eyes of the law. And, you know, all that I'm entitled to, like, all this shit. I'm about to be done with my degree, and I need to get a job soon. It's my birthday, and I just spent way too long talking with a chatbot online to apply to Hot Topic for another retail job I know is going to break my body. It's a strange time. Aging, even when you're really young, makes you really existential. And it's a very chaotic, very slippery time in my life. It feels like when that ice storm hit, and when I would go outside, I would walk in the ice and snow, and my feet would fall in a little bit if I put too much weight down. Things are kind of crumbling, and I can keep falling and I can keep getting up, but even if I get up, you eventually start breaking things. I learned that when I was skateboarding. But I managed to work. I managed to work at my last pizza job, and I still made Welcome to My Channel, and I still practiced with my band. You know, I'm still capable of going through the artistic process, even when things are stressful and chaotic and weird. The world's a really scary place right now. And I don't know what comes next for me, but, you know, maybe that's okay. I've got really good people around me. I've just had a wonderful day with a couple of my best friends. But still, just with all this stress of everything, you know, I've had a real hard time lately. I've realized that I dissociate a lot more than I thought I did. The other night at dinner, I looked around at my roommate and my whole family, and I went, I don't think I'm going to remember this part of my life very well. I don't really remember much of middle or high school. I can remember bits of it, spots, but it's a very holy sort of memory. It's like it's spotty. It's the inverse of Swiss cheese of memories. And I I deleted all my photos from the time, which is the main way I remember things. And I was never able to keep a journal. Now I do journal more, so I'll at least be able to read that back. And I'm recording this, which is essentially the video version of a journal. Because, you know, my laptop went to shit. It stalled me on every project I was working on. You know, I had a short film I was working on, I had music I was working on. It all completely out of my hands for like 2 or 3 weeks. I just got FL fully running again today. But I still had the drive to create. I still wanted to make video. And so I got the idea to make this video. And data companies already have too much of my information, probably. And this is definitely sharing a lot too much more. But art that ignores the kind of mundane aspects of life is missing an essential piece, I think. Because all of this boring day-to-day stuff is what happens in between the big moments that people make art about. And it's so much the majority of my life that I think if I'm trying to make art about my life, then necessarily I'm going to have to make art about these brutally mundane or just vaguely upsetting aspects of it. That's essentially what all of my art has been, and what is most likely going to continue to be. I have a lot to write about, but that doesn't mean my life is very interesting. It just means that I like the sound of my own voice, and I want to say a lot. And I'm gonna keep creating. I'm gonna keep figuring out ways to make whatever's going on in my life into something special. Because I also think that an amount of rawness is very special. If you start separating out what art is and isn't, then you lose room for the weirdos in art who make stuff that is so mundane you'd almost never even consider it. Even someone like Jenny Holzer, who just made quips into word art, basically. It's all one thing. But, you know, everyone puts pieces of themselves into their work. And everyone's work amounts to how they're going to be remembered. And if I'm going to be remembered as a very existential, almost permanently 20-something teenage girl who just makes weird shit, then I've decided that's cool with me.